let's figure this out. Let's figure this thing out right now, okay? So, what is up with the cutting the gas tax? What is that all about, Chris?
Well, I can't claim, ownership of this. It first started with the We the People convention. Tom Zawistowski sent out a message about a month ago and was urging the legislature before they recessed to suspend the gas tax of 38 and a half cents a gallon for 5 months because $1.2 billion in excess tax has been collected by the state. Now, this is confirmed by the state treasurer, by the way, who I spoke to on the phone on Friday. So we really have some good news for people here tonight. First of all, the money is there. So when people say, well, we need that for roads and bridges and stuff. Well, by the way, there's only been a few people have been saying that. And guess what, folks? That's already paid. This is far and above all of that. This doesn't cut into the transportation budget at all, or any budget. This is excess money that's been collected, your money and my money, that they have collected. And actually, we're going to get reckoning here on June 30th this week. It may be as much as $1.6 billion. So if you were to suspend the gas tax today of 38 and a half cents a gallon, and then spend that 1.2 billion, that would carry you out 5 months. 1.6 would carry you out even further. Now, what would that do? I mean, first of all, it would stimulate the economy of Ohio. It would be a great way to celebrate the 4th of July. That's why we're calling for them to come back this coming week before the 4th to pass this in a special session. And by the way, there's some news on that front because Ohio made national news again last week with Governor DeWine vetoing that elections bill of requiring photo ID for mail-in ballots, which was wildly popular, and that man went viral in the conservative realm. They found out what we all know about Governor DeWine, what a problem he is, and I couldn't believe how it went viral on X, and all the social media platforms were calling him out right at the time that Congress is pushing to get the Save America Act passed, okay, which would include provisions that bill was. And so they may just indeed come back. Now, Matt Huffman doesn't want to come back. Get this, folks. The arrogance of this man. He wants to, and I don't want to go too far here because it gets my blood up.
Now, wait one second. Now, Matt Huffman, just so people know, because a lot of people aren't as in tune as we are, he is the Speaker of the Ohio House. He's
that is
the Speaker
correct.
of the state reps. We've got 99 state reps, so he is the kingpin of the state reps. But go ahead. What did he say then?
He is the Speaker, the Republican Speaker of the Ohio House. And he's the one that has recessed them until after the election. Listen, a lot of representatives are upset about that, both in the House and Senate. And by the way, I've talked to key leadership that are not the leadership of Rob McCauley and Matt Huffman. But by the way, Senator George Lang, said, I'm going to call right now Senator Ranke. He's going to be the incoming Senate president in the next session. And he said, let me talk to him. So there are state senators and state representatives who I've talked to who are absolutely in favor of this, a majority. This wouldn't even need the governor's signature. He's already said, well, I'm not for that. Well, we don't need your signature. It would pass beyond 60 votes in the House and the supermajority in the Senate, and it would become law without the governor's signature. What would it do? Well, it would take 38 and a half cents a gallon out at the pump for you. It put real money in people's pockets immediately. It will stimulate the Ohio economy. It's a great way to celebrate the 250th birthday of our nation. And get this, it will drive commerce into Ohio as people will travel to Ohio to get cheap gas. And while they're here, they will spend money in restaurants, parks, and entertainment. The legislators agree with this. Republicans always say, let's cut tax and let's watch the economy grow. Well, let's go ahead and give people back their money that was collected in excess, not your money, Matt Huffman, and leadership in the Senate. This is the people of Ohio's money. Let's give it back to them at the pump. Now, understand something. People say, well, there's been a resolve of the war with Iran and the Strait of Hormuz is open. I know there's been some shooting over the weekend. We don't anticipate that continuing. However, right after President Trump came up with an agreement with the Iranians in a memo of understanding, that was a week ago Sunday, the Monday following, the ExxonMobil CEO stated, listen, our strategic reserves as an industry worldwide were just about depleted. Gas prices were about to go up to $6 and $7 and $8 a gallon because we were depleted.
Wow.
So the opening of the strait came just in the nick of time. And listen to this. He said it's going to take at least 2 months to resupply the chain. So when you say, well, why aren't these presidents coming down? Did you hear President Trump this week? He went on a tirade. He said, you executives, you oil executives, and you're gouging the people. Listen. And he said, we're going to put the Justice Department on you. I appreciate what the president's trying to say. However, they can investigate all they want. They're not going to sell gas at cheap and lose money. They bought the price of a barrel oil around $100 a barrel. Now that it's fallen to $70 or less, that's still not in the pipeline. What they have in reserves, what they refined, was at the higher dollar amount. And so that's why we're still seeing prices just a little bit below $4 a gallon in most of the Akron area that I'm seeing. I know that there are some exceptions. I filled up at $3.70. I had to look for that. I think it was $3.80. If you pay by credit, if it's cash, it's 10 cents cheaper, which, by the way, tells you businesses want cash in the door and what they're needing cash. Okay, when you see that, when they're saying this much for credit, this much for cash, they want you to come in the store. They want you to spend more on all the other items in the store, and that's why they want to bring you in the building rather than you just pulling up, filling up, and leaving. And so, by the way, people are still struggling out there under Biden inflation. And so why are we so passionate about this? Because everyday folks don't get a break. We watch the fraud. Okay, fine, you're finding some people. And the first thing people ask me, but Chris, are they clawing back the money? Are they getting any of the money back? I have the same questions. Hey, Dr. Oz. Hey, J.D. Vance. Hey, FBI. Hey, Akash Patel. When you guys are arresting these people, are you getting any of the money back into the Treasury? Well, we'll have to wait and see on that. But the fact is, what can really help the everyday Ohioan right now is suspension of that gas tax. The money is there. The state treasurer said, Chris, I don't have the ability to do it, or I'd do it tomorrow. But the money's there. We can cut the check. But it takes Matt Huffman and it takes Rob McCauley to call the session, cast the vote, and let's get her done.
Okay, so let's get an understanding here. So they, from what I understand, the budget itself exceeded by 1.5 billion, 1.6 billion, something around there, correct? So what you're saying here is, so let's take away the gas tax until they lose 1.6 billion in revenue, because it's owed to us anyhow. We gave them too much. So once that happens, then they can raise the price back up to where it's supposed to be. Now, they have to come back, you're saying June 30th, correct?
No. Right now, they're not scheduled to come back at all. They were going to come back a week ago Wednesday for a data center bill, but he called that off. You know why he called that off? Because the pressure was building about the suspension of the gas tax. They know that this is wildly popular.
Now let's stop on that for a second. Why do they not want to do it? And it's our money coming back to us. And I know I heard what DeWine said. DeWine was like, oh, well, we're not going to have money for roads, bridges, and everything's just going to deteriorate and fall apart, which is total BS. I know that.
That's right.
That's total BS.
He's lying to you. He's lying to you.
He's lying to us. He's absolutely lying to us. But why don't they want to come back? Wouldn't this be goodwill on the part of the Republican Party, who needs to get the base excited about something? And so, okay, we drop your gas price 40 cents, boom, up until November. When the midterms come, people are going to be like, man, this is awesome. And even if the gas prices tank, even if it goes down to $2 a gallon, who cares? Keep the 40 cents in there. I mean, we'd be 40 cents, 60 cents cheaper. PA is always higher than us with gas. PA is a horrible state when it comes to that gasoline tax. You're right. They'd be coming in from West Virginia, Kentucky, you name it, and stuff like that. All right. It's a good strategy. Why won't they do it? Fill me in on that. It doesn't make sense to me.
I wish I knew. Matt Huffman is a man who doesn't like to talk to everyday people. He doesn't like to talk to conservative leaders like myself. We have attempted to meet with this man on multiple occasions. I only met with him once when he was Senate president. It was at the end of his term. It's when he was trying to get some friends in line because he wanted to be the next speaker and he didn't want any kerfuffles between there and the vote. And quite honestly, that's why he met with me and a small group of ministers. We wanted to meet with him for 2 years, and he wouldn't have any of it. So the same thing was with Tom Sawistowski. He said, Chris, he doesn't meet with any of us. So I really never have experienced this with leadership in the Ohio House and the Ohio Senate. In the 25 years I've been doing public policy, we've always been able to meet with leadership. We presented them with framed copies of the 10 Commandments over the years. We've had prayer with them. We're not like coming in with a list of agenda. Sometimes leadership's like, well, what do you guys want? And we didn't want anything.
But wait a minute, he's listening. He's listening to donors. He's listening to the people that are giving him money and everything like that. But you're saying somebody like you with a grassroots organization, he doesn't want to talk to you.
That's right. No.
Crazy.
And so, well, it's bad leadership, and quite honestly. So here's where some pressure may be building, okay? That pressure building is that this elections bill, now they're going to look badly if they don't go in and override that. And if they come back, we've got them. If they come back, they've got to do the suspension of the gas tax at the same time. By the way, this has already been shouted about in caucus, I'm told. Members have told me, said, Chris, this came up in caucus. We made a strong point for this. And then leadership wasn't having any of it. And there was like a few of the holdouts, for whatever reason, who knows why, didn't want to do it. So there has been a bill introduced by Representative Adams and Representative Matthews, I believe. And it's for half of the 38 cents. And I said, no, gentlemen, go back to the full amount of the 38.5 cents a gallon. Let's make it worth the people's while.
Right, exactly.
So I think they are considering doing that. So a bill has been introduced. But the fact is that this is our money. It's sitting there. They don't have the right to hold on to that money. They need to give it back to the people. And they can give it back to us, everybody, at the gas pump. I talked to a contractor at the gas pump last week. He was a tree service guy. He pulled in with his big rig, and he has tow along. By the way, that's a dangerous and a hard job if you've ever done tree cutting and worked in the tree service. I have for a couple of days. I was exhausted. And so I talked to him, and I said, would it help you to get 38.5 cents a gallon or less? He said, absolutely. And I said, if I may ask, how much gas you guys spend a week? He said, we spend $1,000 a week with our main truck and with our equipment. And if we have to travel somewhat, we spend about $1,000 a week. Think what that would mean to that small businessman. Republicans are always saying we're for the small business guy. Well, let's get it done. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, it's so discouraging. Now, Governor DeWine opposed the suspending of the gas tax. He argued the tax is a user tax for roads, for bridges, construction, infrastructure, even the state highway patrol. DeWine warned that reducing the tax would mean fewer road and bridge projects and could hurt Ohio's infrastructure.
No, he's lying.
I know
he's literally lying. Because when the state treasurer says, Chris, this is far and above all those things have already been paid for. Right. So who's lying? The governor's lying.
They've all been paid for. They've all been paid for. The budget is already taken care of. They've been paid for. He's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Let me go around the corner here. Brian, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm not shocked at all. I agree with one of our listeners that says that the government won't really cut anything. Remember that the two top priorities of government is to protect itself and to grow. I have yet to see anyone in Lake County, any taxing authority, actually give back money to the taxpayers. They just won't do it. It just seems like it's an anomaly for any government bureaucracy to give the money back to the people. And I agree completely with Chris and Tom Z that the money needs to be in the hands of the taxpayers so that we can keep the economy going, and that with the rising prices of everything, that would be a big help for everyone.
Yeah, it would be, because gasoline affects everything that we do, whether we're going to taking the kids to school or buying groceries or farming or construction or anything. I mean, the way it directly impacts us, the gasoline. So that's true there. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Good. All right, so I saw a question pop up. If this is enacted, would it affect diesel? And the answer to that is yes. And if it does, I want to harken back to some numbers that I was made aware of easily a decade or more ago. It was ballparked nationally that every 10 cents a gallon more we pay for diesel has a roughly $1 billion impact on the American economy. So the more expensive diesel is, the more expensive goods and services are. That's because diesel is primarily used, outside of the virtue signaling few, who have those battery-powered trucks, which are ridiculous. They're just trying to show off and send some virtue signaling. Every penny counts. And that's money that comes directly off the bottom line of businesses and corporations and drives up the cost of things. Everything you get, from the stuff that's shipped in on your grocery store shelves, you name it. Even the local grocery stores have to rely on diesel to some extent. But all the goods, especially manufactured overseas in places like China, they're using overwhelmingly diesel tankers to load the cargo ships, power the cargo ships, unload, and then ship them to you. So diesel is key in this. Thank you for that great question. When it comes to Huffman, my strong encouragement is we've got to replace Huffman as Speaker. We have to have a competent Speaker in Ohio if Ohio is to stop itself from turning into California. We're headed in that direction because we have a horrible dearth of strong constitutional conservatives within the Republican Party. Huffman, in my book, has done nothing, almost nothing good that I can find, and lots of bad stuff. He is key behind blocking things like the medical freedom initiatives. You name it, Matt Huffman is out there blocking the good and green-lighting the bad. We need a better speaker. One thing, there was a comment, just a few things I'm going to throw out here, and then we'll go back to Chris. There was a great comment about cash, and somebody posted that cash is desirable for businesses because that fee that businesses paid to credit card processors is like another tax, and that's absolutely true. It subtracts from the local business. So if you like that business where you're spending money, just know that every time you do a credit card transaction, the bad guys are getting a little bit of that and the business gets a little bit less. But it goes further than that, and I'm a big advocate of cash. It gets into data mining, and we're starting to get into understanding what these AI data centers and the whole concept of state control of currency. That means centralized banking, digital currency, and all that stuff. If you're not following that, by the way, find me on Unwoke Academy. I talk a lot about that. But if you do away with cash and everything is digital, every transaction you make is recorded and logged by the state. So every time you're buying gas or you're buying chips or sodas or whatever, anything, it's all tracked. If you stick with cash, make cash a consistent currency, you avoid that. One last thing, and I think this may be, well, two key points. I'm hopeful that in Northeast Ohio, if we do this, that it puts a crushing blow on NOACA. That's Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency. Based out of Cleveland, they do terrible things to 5 counties, Lake, Geauga, Medina, Lorain, and Cuyahoga. They're a terrible, top-down tyrannical entity, and they use gas tax dollars to manipulate and do bad things to those 5 counties. The last thing, though, is this whole notion that this money goes into a pot and they use that money to fix roads and bridges. I've arrived at the conclusion, just like in our education industrial complex, that our roads and bridges are effectively held hostage. We have roads and bridges that are kept and maintained in horrible condition so that we, the taxpayers, can be constantly fleeced. It works very much, in my book, based on the numbers that I've crunched and see, very much like education. The worse it is, the more these people can come back to us and say, well, we've only collected $60 billion. If only we had $75 billion, then maybe we might be able to fix that pothole. It's garbage. We need to get back to competent governance and holding people accountable. That's all I have to say on that. Back to Chris.
All right, well, hang on one second, Chris. I do have something that a quote here from Matt Huffman. He is quoted as saying that he hadn't discussed the bill with his caucus, but suggested that any suspension would need a price-based trigger so the tax wouldn't snap back up as sharply as once the prices eventually drop. Does that make any sense to you? Have you heard of that before? A trigger, a price-based trigger? Or is that just a lot of BS saying, I don't want to deal with this whole thing. Let's just keep pushing it off.
The price is $1.6 billion. There it is. That's the trigger.
Well, here's the deal. So the fact that he's having to talk about it, that where you saw where he had a quote, when was that quote? Was there a date on that?
Something with the State House News Bureau. I don't have the date, though.
So,
State House News Bureau has a quote.
So actually, that's kind of the first time we've heard him talking. So that tells you that calls and emails and messages are getting into the legislature. And by the way, folks, how to message your legislator on this issue, and Matt Huffman and Rob McCauley. Go to the Ohio Christian Alliance website. Just search Ohio Christian Alliance or go to ohioca.org. And right at the top is the big suspend the gas tax. Click on that and then open it up. It's an email that has the clickable areas for Matt Huffman, Rob McCauley, your speaker, your Senate president, your senator, your representative, and message them. Suspend the gas tax of 38.5 cents. Do it now. And be polite. And then, because you could do more with honey than you can with vinegar with these people, but be insistent and just say a little message in there. And they, believe me, they get those messages. And those are pouring in, we believe, because I've been on a number of radio programs and podcasts over the last 10 days, heralding the news, let's suspend the gas tax. You know, my own Republican chairman, Brian Williams of Summit County, said the following. He said, Chris, we need to do this. We need to do it yesterday. He said, what about the gas that I paid for the last 4 months since the war broke out? I've been paying $4+ a gallon. I'm not going to get that money back. Let's give the people a break now. This is a Republican chairman talking. Listen, I talked to the chairman, Alex T. He says, look, I'm in favor of it, but they got to do it over there in the legislature. So Matt Huffman is just playing a two-step dance with you, folks. Forget that. Everybody knows that if you do the 38.5 cents and when the money's gone, fine, the gas goes back up with the 38.5 cents. However, what if we find out that there's more excess tax now, then there'll be additional excess tax and that they could extend it. And that's what, to Jonathan's point, they don't want us to know, is that they could extend this for some time. President Trump wants this. He wants it on the national level. But that's why he realizes that, in fact, we had Senator Bernie Moreno call for this. We've had several other national leaders calling for this, and then, of course, state officials. So, no, listen. The treasurer says the money's there. Members in the House and Senate said we can do this, absolutely, and we could do this in a one standalone bill. This would have bipartisan support. I talked to even Democrats who said, yes, if it's a bill that's clean with no other attachments, I would vote for that. So, folks, this has broad bipartisan support. This is a people's bill. This is putting money back in your pocket of that mom and dad who has to do all those errands every day, to the guy who's running the diesel truck. And it would bring prices down because everybody would get a break of 38.5 cents a gallon. So then if the prices do come down a little bit, you know, right now, folks, let me remind you, somebody says, well, it came down to, $3.49 today at my gas station. Well, that's still $1 more than it was before the war, folks. I took a picture at the pump when the war just broke out. It was $2.55 a gallon. And think about that. When you're filling up with 17 gallons, with that extra dollar or that extra money, I could be buying lunch. I could be buying other things with it. But no, it's going in the tank and it's going into the state treasury. Stop it already. Give us our money back.
Well, the thing is, when it was $5 a gallon, I know it's down to about $3.85 or something. When it was $5 a gallon, we were getting raked over the coals. Well, now that it's dropped to $3.80, we just ignore it? No, drop it down to $3.40 or something, and let us recoup a little bit more of that money back. It's a great idea. I can't believe the Republicans won't push this through. The Republicans, we have a supermajority in the House, and we have a supermajority in the Senate. And we're supposedly have a Republican governor. Crickets. We don't have a Republican governor. Okay, we don't. But Huffman needs to get on this. Rob McCauley needs to get on this. They need to push this. This is, and wouldn't you agree? I think I mentioned this earlier, but I just want to reiterate. Don't you agree that this is like a golden goose opportunity?
Yes.
For the Republican Party for everybody to just say, man, these guys are great, they are wonderful. They're doing something for the average person, you and me, dropping our gas prices 40 cents or whatever. And they refuse to do it.
I've never seen anything like it. In all my 25 years of public policy work, I've never seen an opportunity that's so golden. People that are actually steaming mad about a lot of things, when I say to them, well, what about suspending the gas tax at 30? They said, hey, that's a great idea. I mean, it is literally a momentum shifter for the Republicans. Joe, you're so right. So if they miss this opportunity, they have no one to blame but themselves. But we'll see what happens here, because in the next 10 days, even after the 4th of July, they may call a special session to come back to override the governor's veto on that elections bill, just to show that they're doing something, because their constitutional amendment of photo ID, which is already in statute, by the way. Okay, so it's already in practice in Ohio. The constitutional amendment will put it in the Constitution. Okay, that's fine. But it doesn't include the provision of a photo ID for mail-in ballots. That was a standalone separate bill. I'm like, why didn't you put that in the language for the constitutional amendment? That would have been something, but no. They always go a half measure and never give us the full loaf. And that's what really steams people. That's where they said these guys aren't for real. And that's like, I'm seeing John here, Plesnick, and of course, Brian, with the real estate tax reform. They had opportunities to do some really aggressive things with real estate tax reform, but they always give you these half-baked measures, and there's no telling, what it will really mean for people in real time with real estate tax reform, since real estate tax assessments have gone up even further.
No, it's crazy. So we got to remind everybody that DeWine is the one who put the kibosh on that House Bill 472, which would they were trying to get that through. It passed the House, it passed the Senate, and he vetoed it. And that would have that was saying you have to show voter ID when you do mail-in balloting.
Yes.
When you do a mail-in balloting, and he said that it's not it's not necessary, and he said there's no fraud tool involved in the legislation. No fraud tool involved in the legislation. That's a quote from him. Well, the thing is, what the hell do you think showing a picture of yourself is? That's going to cut down on the fraud?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Joe, we've been doing elections for 25 years with the Ohio Christian Alliance. We do voter registration. We do voter guides. We even did in 2000, after the 2012 elections, because we got so many, that was when Obama was reelected. We had so many nefarious reports that came into our office in real time that we launched a statewide citizens audit of the boards of election to see and find out what actually happened. At the time, it was Secretary of State John Husted. He said, Chris, what's going on? I said, John, we're getting a lot of reports into our office of voter fraud and eyewitness reports. He said, well, please provide me with what you find. We had affidavits. It took us about 10 months to do the statewide citizens audit. We did that as an organization. We provided our findings. That's how we got rid of Golden Week. You'll remember that. It used to be 35 days of open voting. We got it down to 28. We wanted to have more like 14 or 7 days of early voting, but we at least got rid of Golden Week, which was an overlap in voter registration and voting. They were registering and voting on the same day without boards of election being able to vet them. Got rid of that. We pushed for voter photo ID back then in 2013, sir. We were the first group to do that and do it hard and heavy. It only took, 10 years for them to come around to our way of thinking and finally getting in statute. Now in 2026, they would have put it on the ballot. But a photo ID requirement for mail-in ballot would be, for instance, I was relicensing for ministry with an organization, and they wanted my photo ID. Okay, along with a bunch of other things. It's required in so many things. This is not an undue burden. This is a way to safeguard the vote, and they need to come back and override that. And at the same time, they need to suspend the gas tax, giving Ohioans a real tax holiday.
You said it. You said it. Well, hey, Chris, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
You always do a great job. Thanks, you very
Chris.
much.
Thank you. God bless you,
we'll keep in touch. Keep us aware. We're going to keep pushing for that whole gas tax thing and all that, because it's just that important. Got to cut the gas. Yeah. Thank you again.
I do have a question, Joe, if I